Sean from Middle Grounded, and I just wanted to use a 4-year psych degree to break down Lorne Lynn Armstrong, a predator caught in the Bowling Green to Catch a Predator sting, famous for the line "COD" that came out when Chris Hansen came out, dropped the mic, told him he was going to be on NBC, and the cameras came out. Lorne has an ego the size of a mountain and the brain the size of a kernel of corn. And I have to say this, he's a danger to women, an extreme danger to women. He's abusive, he's violent, and he's an alcoholic, and he's a liar. He's also manipulative. So throw all those together, and I'll tell you what Lorne's problem is. He's bipolar 2 with mood swing disorder. And I'm going to explain why. I hope you didn't just hear that and click it off. I'm going to tell you why. I exhibited some of the behaviors Lorne did, and I might get into that, but I'm just going to stick with Lorne for right now. It wasn't as bad, but what Lorne's problem is, if you have bipolar 2, and if you do have a mental health issue and you are listening to this, don't be ashamed to go get help. I'm on 2 medications to help me with depression and my mood stabilizer, and I'm not ashamed of it because it helped. It changed my life. And if someone was smart enough, Lorne would be on these medications, but they are not smart enough. So anyway, back to what I was saying. Sorry, that was my Tiffany attempt. That was one of his catfishes. He's been catfished relentlessly, and it really brought it out of him. Lorne loves conflict. Lorne is addicted to creating these scenarios in his head, using little gaps in what these women do, little things that they can't account for, that aren't even important. And he fills them in with what he thinks happens. And he goes over those scenarios over and over in his head all day. Bullet points for him of things he should have said, things he will say, things he needs to say. But Lorne doesn't have an end game. There's nothing at the end, which is why when he's in an argument with these women, he'll say, "What were you doing? And don't tell me it was exactly what they were probably doing." Because he doesn't want to hear it. He wants them to tell him, no matter what, that they are lying. And then he wants to get angry at them for lying. And then he'll circle back to the beginning and he'll go off about what led them to the point where they admitted they were lying. That is a Lorne vortex. And it's something that's, typical with bipolar 2 people. I would do it. But see, I had a life, I had hobbies, I had things that could occupy me. And in my situation, I ended up ending it myself because I knew it was making me unhappy. I was dating a girl that was going to college. I was working nights. And if things were slow in my head, I was worried about this dude named Jim, who he was her age. By all accounts, she probably should have ended up, with him. But for some reason, we clicked. But I couldn't handle the distance. She was going out partying. And I knew deep down inside, she was not right for me and I should find somebody in my area. And that's what I did. Lorne can't do that. He can't. He would rather assume all day while he's staring at the clock, because we know he does that. He mentions, I tried to call you at 4 o'clock and you didn't get back with me until 6, which means you didn't go to bed until midnight. Who were you talking to all night? Because in Lorne's world, in his paranoid bipolar 2 world, if the women are not talking to him, they have to be doing exactly what they should be doing with him with another guy. He also sees women as a walking vagina. And he said he trusts them. And he says he doesn't trust the guy. Well, I got news for you, Lorne. You should be trusting your woman to not do anything with the guy. Because no matter what, if you were secure and you loved your woman and you put that trust in her, you would have to say, hey, I'm going to trust that she's not going to just lay down and open her legs for this guy, no matter how much he wants it. But in Lorne's head, in his little pea brain head, he thinks that if a guy wants something, they're going to get it. And that's another problem with bipolar 2 dude. He has an out, which is always his mom. It's a parachute. And later on, call Emma, who was another catfish, was another parachute when he couldn't handle Winnie. But the Lorne vortex is go and go and go and go until he either just can't scream and yell and go anymore, or he breaks down in tears because he doesn't know how to end it, so he just goes with that. It's why he jumps around from point to point. It's why whenever a girl puts a roadblock up and talks common sense, whoop-bam, he jumps over to this lane and starts going, but you didn't tell me, after he's accusing Ramona of sleeping with the how did you see the doctor naked? Go look up those calls. Look up Lorne Doctor. Doctor never even had a name. This is how stupid Lorne is. It's the doctor. Never asked his name. I don't think he ever asked what his practice was, where he practiced, nothing. He just knew him as a guy with horse dink. But Lorne would go with the doctor. Ramona would say something and point out something about Lorne, and Lorne would instantly jump over, well, you never told me your last name, out of the blue. And then, you never sent me any videos. Who was you talking to all night last night, Ramona? When she never even alluded to. He said, I know you were talking to somebody. You said you were tired, or you said you were sick, but I can hear in your voice you were tired. This is how crazy this dude is. And it's paranoia. Lorne, if he didn't drink, he was getting proper sleep, he had a stable job, and he had real friends to keep him in reality. He might do better. But the only thing in his life right now is Roy, sometimes, his mom, who can't stand him, Tony and Winnie, who are the only two friends he has, and they're not really friends. He uses them as an excuse, to gross me out. I called Tony again. I shouldn't have called Tony. I went over to Tony's, and I'm never going to go to Tony's again. I just went to Tony's last night. He doesn't have anybody to keep him in reality. So someone with bipolar 2, when they're creating all these scenarios in their head, when they have nothing else going on, things just escalate and escalate and escalate until yelling and screaming becomes a habit. It becomes, something that he needs in his life. So I have to say, if someone in Lorne's life was smart enough, if someone cared about him enough, they would probably send him to a behavioral medicine, nurse practitioner, doctor, whoever. But they don't. I don't even think his therapist or probation officer or parole officer or whoever, I don't think they care about him. Lorne used to say, well, they know they didn't send me to jail because they know I got too much to lose. I take water to the children's hospital or homeless shelter or whatever it was. He did that one time, I think, maybe, and he continued to say that. He had his mom read a letter in court one time that he wrote. He's a disaster. And Kayla, the precious princess, 13-year-old he was trying to romance, she would have been a prisoner forever. This is a guy that would drive... Dude, I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed to say this, but I will. I was dating one of the most beautiful girls I've ever dated. Absolutely stunning. And she was a party girl. Never cheated on me. But in my head, my insecurities would come out. And one night I actually drove by her house. I did. Nothing was going on. I was just on that side of town, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to drive by her house. And then after I did it, I felt horrible. But I did it. This is a guy, Lorne would be doing it constantly, driving by the house, calling hundreds of times. Why didn't you call me? What were you doing? And he would spend all of his time that he should be using to say nice things, to bolster his relationship, yelling and screaming. And then at the very end, if she finally relented, or he broke down, he would do a quick 3-minute, how was your day, whatever, and get off the phone feeling like, okay, well, I salvaged it, everything's good again. But that's Lorne. That's why you get the Lorne vortex. Had nothing going on, sits at home, creates these scenarios in his head. He just thinks about them. And it becomes real, and he becomes more paranoid. So when he finally talks to the woman who he's been waiting to talk to, he doesn't say, hey, sweetheart, how are you? He goes ballistic. and he can't figure out why no real women want to talk to him. Well, number one, his face looks like an ice cream cone that melted in the sun, and then somebody took it in and put it back in the freezer. But he's an egomaniac, he's a narcissist, he's dangerous, and that's just my first video I'm going to make on this moron. There are so many. But go look up Lorne Armstrong Doctor. But make sure you watch Lorne Armstrong TCAP, or To Catch a Predator. Watch his sting, the unedited, uncut footage. Watch the whole thing, and you can kind of see the first phases of a Lorne vortex. He really is one of the most maddening yet entertaining dudes. And count the number of his many syllables that come out when he gets flustered. He reminds me of the guy on Caddyshack. Sterling's dad. You know, the guy that Rodney Dangerfield torments. But that's neither here nor there. It's terrifying. And I want you to do one more thing. If you get angry and you need a palate cleanser, look up Weep Coffee, as in crying. Weep. And then I want you to go look up Yell at Me, Why Don't You song. Brilliant. I love you guys. Just wanted to put this out there. I know it's a bit rambling, but it's just kind of a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I will talk to you guys later.